I'm very excited to have my special guest, Marion Bevington, Dr Marion Bevington, today. Marion's going to be on the Divorce TV show doing amazing healing, but I wanted to have a more in-depth chat with her about the work that she does, or this aspect of it, because she does lots of different things. So I'm going to hand this over now to introduce you to Dr Marion Bevington. Hello, Marion.
Hello, Susie. It's really good to be a part of your great movement. I love it.
And to start with, there's lots of different kinds of healings and meditations. Could you just give us, yours is quite specific, isn't it? I'd love to know a little bit more about why it's different from a normal mindfulness meditation, for example.
So the key for me, the key to all healing is what's the understanding of the word healed, or wellness or health. So that's always a really good starting point, because obviously unless we know what healing is really meaning to us, then we're never going to make any sense of what we do. So really understanding what does healing mean for you as an individual. Again, this is a mindful process that you would need to go to make your own understanding of that for you. But when you're able to appreciate what it is you want more of, or what you want to do instead, or what the healing means for you, how that would look, then to really become mindful, definitely, but with an additional distinction, with an additional way of discerning what is it that your mind is bringing to your awareness, or what are you becoming aware of in your mindfulness. And so the experience, the part of the healing that I wanted to share with you all at the moment is about the different parts enacted through our psyche, in our mind, within our personality. So you can think of the personality like a family. So your personality has a whole family of parts. And so applying mindfulness to this discernment or distinguishing of those different parts, and using mindfulness to also keep you in a healthy, resourced, useful state, so that you don't get caught up in destructive emotions or old patterns that are not useful for you. To stay in a useful and resourced place, you need mindfulness for that.
So if you're a parent, for example, who are co-parenting, and you're angry with the other parent, and you recognise, you're evolved enough to recognise this is not a good thing, and you're annoyed about it, you just don't know how to turn the switch off for it, because they keep triggering you. I'm guessing that this could be quite a powerful methodology to help deal with that.
Absolutely. So firstly, you're right, the mindfulness of, oh my God, I'm really triggered, I'm really annoyed. That person has really hurt me. I've taken it really personally. These are all what we can become mindful, and they just make us feel worse, really, because they're tuning us into the pain or the hurt that's there. But the pain or the hurt that's there, we can't deny it either. So we do have to recognise it. And again, so now you're going into mental conflict, aren't you? Because you've got this anger, or you've got this annoyance that needs expression, and then you've got this family that needs protecting, and you don't want to create more division or more heightened emotions, because that'll unsettle everybody. So then we've got this inner conflict. How do I keep everything settled and contained, and at the same time allow this anger or this frustration or whatever this is within me to be expressed? Because I do want to protect myself, I do want to look after myself, I do need to have boundaries to stop me being triggered into this angry response or this really hurt place. But I can't deny that hurt place either. So it's, now we're looking at how do we balance between this keeping things cohesive and keeping connection and keeping the family together, but at the same time allowing this one part of the family, this one expression within the family, this voice of anger or annoyance, how do we give that the space so that it can be heard and it can be received, but it's not going to create this explosion, it's not going to create this big split that often anger energy can have.
And of course, that's pretty, not just for the harmony in the family, but also if you're perhaps going through mediation or trying to deal, you can't, it's the exploding that can cause an awful lot of trouble. And then people end up spending, I spoke to someone yesterday who's been going through the court process. They've already spent £20,000, and it's like, and it's still not over. So it makes good sense to really understand how to control these issues, but not control, because as you say, it's in you. You've got to let it out, and you can make you ill, can't it, if you don't deal with it. If you just try and hold it in and have a stiff upper lip, that can have quite severe consequences, can't it?
Absolutely. Well, anything that we hold is a contraction in the body. So looking at the body from a physical perspective, we need to expand and contract, expand and contract. There's a pattern of life. So if we go contract, and there's no expansion and there's just contraction, absolutely that's going to make the body really ill, and it can create mental illness as well as physical illness. So absolutely there is no denial or bottling up of the emotional stuff. And it's like the difference between if you're really angry. Anger is an amazing emotion. This is one of the key parts to the healing as well, I think. Anger is an amazing emotion. Anger is what can, a mum can lift a car up off a baby under the tyre, if you like. Well, it's anger that provides that motivation. It's anger that provides the energy and the power to lift up the car. So if we knew that we could channel our anger to, lifting up the cars where we needed to, and not going around and killing people who'd upset us, but actually use the energy to resource and to fix the situation, rather than make the situation worse, which I think would happen if you did kill somebody, wouldn't it? So
usually
we create milestones that are positive, with positive intent, but without bottling all of this stuff up, because absolutely it's a pressure cooker. You start bottling it up, and it will eke into other parts of your life. If we don't express our anger in the right context, that anger is going to feel like it's not been expressed and it hasn't been allowed, and it will creep up when you're least expecting it. And illness is one of the ways that happens. Yeah, you're right.
And I think for both men and women, we, especially in England and America, our cultures, we don't know how to express anger in healthy ways. We don't know what to do with it.
You're absolutely right. It's that stiff upper lip, and that's contraction. Yeah.
And there's an amazing book that really helped me at one point, Colin Tippin's Radical Forgiveness, and what I remember from that is that what he did that was very different from a lot of people working in that area is he doesn't, as you say, doesn't deny the anger. You have to recognise it, and you have, because that's what makes you ill if you don't. I'd love to know a little bit more about your own story now. What led you into this field? So
health, actually. Unexpressed anger is a big part of my journey. I've got there's an inflammatory condition in my body that has created a swelling, and you can see it, but this eye is much bigger than this eye, because the eye is actually being pushed forward by a whole process inside my body. And what I now understand the process is about, it's labelled as an autoimmune condition, which means the body is attacking itself, but I don't believe the body's attacking itself. The body is attacking an idea that it doesn't like. That idea happens to be something about myself. But actually what I now know is the metaphor which really gave me that's exactly what's happening in my eye was you thinking about the way that we use language and how we interpret language. So there's the keeping an eye out for danger. So I was brought up in a house where my parents, there was alcoholism, there was violence, there was rage, constant rage and anger on both sides. There was a bit of depression in there as well, thrown in for good measure. Ancestral alcoholism, it didn't start with my parents. They learned very well from their own ancestry. And so that I was brought into this life as a helpless being in this torrent of energy, destructive energy. So keeping an eye out for danger was a really big deal. And so my body is it's still doing that process today. It's still keeping an eye out for danger, because the way that I grew, the life that I grew into, and the way that my brain was wired was you have to keep an eye out for danger, because it's all around you constantly. And then the other thing that I do is I seek approval. So with alcoholism, we become very needy of connection, because alcoholism disrupts connection. And the reason that people are alcoholics, the trauma that we drink for, the pain that we drink to get rid of, is already a disconnection. So all of this disconnecting has happened, and I've got this seeking approval. So again, it's this outward reaching energy of mine. I need to keep seeking approval. I give up on myself. In a way, sometimes I absolutely sacrifice myself to make the other person feel better, because I need them to feel better for me to feel safe. So I'm seeking approval and I'm keeping my eye out for danger. And then eventually my body actually grew into the symptoms that it has now, because these two processes were so at the forefront of how I am, of who I am, and how I be, who I be, because of the lifestyle I had as a child. So understanding that now, it's taken me about 15 years to get to that understanding since the initial symptoms came. And sitting along that journey, I lived in India for 2 years, and I studied yoga and yoga therapy, and Ayurveda and lots of these lovely healing skills. But it was during that time that the symptoms were actually coming out. So I thought I was living like a nun, and I'm living in India, and I'm a vegetarian, and I'm being absolutely, this kind of divine, really, really treating myself really well. But my body was getting sicker and sicker. So there was a massive internal conflict at the time. I was really angry with my body. I was angry with God. I was angry with my parents. I was angry with society. I was angry with everybody, because I was being this nun, if you like. And why is this happening? It was like the opposite of what I expected. And now what I understand is the more that we come back into our body, the more that we become ourselves again, the body can actually express what's being stuffed down. And so me stuffing down anger all my life, because if I'd have been angry and outwardly expressed it, I'd have been beaten by my parents, so I couldn't do it. So I've had to swallow it and swallow it and swallow it. And it's all of that swallowing that I now, in my mid-50s, I'm on this journey. I'm still uncovering the imbalances in my body, the symptoms in my body that resulted from those things in childhood. The beauty of the journey that I've taken is I'm constantly striving for me. And when I find things, I'm a really good teacher, and I help people to see how to do what I've done, or how to share the knowledge or the wisdom that I've been able to take on. So my healing journey now is my expressing what healing is around me to other people. And that's amazing, because none of that was ever expected. I did like teaching. I was a yoga teacher, and I did like sharing and sharing information and experiences. I've always liked that. And being in the body, there's always been something for me about how to connect to your own body. And I think it's because I spent my childhood not connected to my body because of the fear. So now as an adult, I'm back in. And I know that so many people have exactly the same experience. Maybe not the same story, but this same need for, seeking approval or fear of danger. I know that we've all got stories similar to that. And so the healing that I'm doing can help others, whatever their story is too.
It's interesting what you say about being a teacher, because one of the reasons we first met was you were one of the very significant people who's helped me with my public speaking, which was the most terrifying concept for me when I first started, and you were very, very important on that journey. So you're a great teacher, whatever you turn your hand to. But with the wanted to ask you, with the healing work that you're doing, how do you what are the key things that you have to accept before you can start on that journey? Because I think a lot of people are reaching out looking for help, but you have to engage, you have to take some responsibility for that self-love. And the other thing, if I can throw the question in at the same time, is it my imagination? But your eyes did not look it looked so much better. I haven't seen you for a while. So has that been changing, or is it just my imagination?
No, it does change. My eye condition does change. When I'm stressed, it looks much more scared, actually, is what I now notice. When I look at my eye that's swollen, it just looks really, really scared. But there's also, because as a child there was violence around, so I got whacked in the face a lot. I've had a few black eyes, so it's almost like it's like the memory of that punishment as well, or not, punishment's the wrong word, but the memory of that impact that physical, the violence and stuff had on me as well. It's a combination of this fear that I see, and but it changes a lot with my state and where I'm at, definitely. The first thing that you mentioned, the key for me in all of this is that everybody, including me, everybody is trying their best in every moment. Sometimes their best is rubbish. But everybody is trying their absolute best in every moment. And the reasons when our best is rubbish is when we're triggered into an old hurt or an old pain, and we re-embody that old hurt or that old pain, which is where all the anger and the frustration or the depression, that's where all those big emotional experiences live. And so when we get triggered into that place again, it's like this one little piece of our personality, this one family member from our personality, suddenly she becomes center stage, and she's probably still acting as if she's 3, because that's when she was shocked, or that's when a trauma happened, that this aspect of my personality suddenly became crystallized as an aspect of me. But I've been doing it since I was 3. So one of the things that I know I used to do is I used to put my hands on my hips, and I used to shout at my parents, well, go on, hit me again, because I'd already been hit. And so there was nothing to lose. But actually, this part of me that's cheeky with her hands on her hips saying, go on then, hit me again, she's just a front for the fear of being hit and for the fear of being disconnected from. She is an absolute front. She's just this mask, if you like. But she's really powerful. And she is about 3. So whenever I'm triggered into that place with my hands on my hips, I am absolutely doing my best in that moment. And I'm 3. So my best is going to be rubbish usually, especially for dealing with a more complex situation.
And when you're in that space, that aspect of yourself, is that when you do the healing, are we then looking at working rather than just the whole of ourselves? Are we working on a particular part of ourselves that needs that love and attention?
Absolutely. So the healing that I do now is when that 3-year-old is here, I allow as much of her to be present, but without losing this connection back to the center of me, this bigger, as I call it, the capital S self. And your capital S self is the part of you that comes alive when you are absolutely curious and kind. It's almost a childlike state of awe with the world and this love of how divine everything is, and trust. There's a big piece of in this to me that now I understand is about what trust feels like. And so if I can occupy my capital S self, compassionate, trusting, and embrace all parts of me, then I can look at this little 3-year-old, who she is, and I can really discover her story from her perspective, see what is happening for her and what does she need, so I can then reparent that aspect of my inner child. And if I reparent that hurt, the next time I get triggered into that place, it's different. It may not be 3 anymore, or it may be 3 and wise, because I've been able to reparent and instill or install some more resourcefulness into that little aspect of me, so that whenever it gets triggered, the wisdom and the resourcefulness is available too.
That sounds amazing. But I suppose my first thought though is, for those who are listening and thinking, I'm traumatized, I don't want to go anywhere near that, their fear, reconnecting with what's traumatic. I get the feeling this is actually a very safe and comforting process that you've created here, otherwise you wouldn't be doing it, but perhaps you could say a little bit about that to reassure people.
Absolutely. Well, the beginning of any practice, for me in this situation, is about how do I connect to this place of trust? How does it feel when I get there? How do I find this open compassion in me? So one of the lovely exercises that I like to do is, if you imagine your first pet or your first child or something, that when you have that one memory of that, just that one image or that one moment in time, your heart just melts. Yeah, so we've all got either a pet or a beloved relative or a child, that beloved, that sense of the beloved thing, and understand that how you make the connection to that and how you receive the love from that thing. So to build that process, and then imagine putting a mirror between you so that you then receive and give that love back to yourself. So there's exercises and processes that we need to go through before we go deep into the healing methodology, because you're absolutely right. I'm going to get lost in my little 3-year-old with her hands on her hips because I'm used to her having centre stage. So for her to sort of be on the stage with my capital S self is a new situation. So we need to take slow steps to make sure that this capital S self is always available, and she's always at least only one step away. It's never more than one step back.
And so for this, so for those who are coming new to this on the Divorce TV show, and the healing that you'll be giving as a sort of first step, if you like, in what sounds like it could be a very powerful process to keep doing. It's not going to be a one-hit wonder, but a good taster for them to experience. What can they expect from that?
So the expectation, I think, is to really to allow what happens. Because often the fear is that I'll be swallowed whole by this huge emotion that's going to take over me, or I'll get lost in this never-ending pain and never be able to find my way out of it. There's this overwhelm, this fear of an overwhelm of a big emotion, which is why we don't want to go there. So the expectation is that you don't actually have to go there. You just have to allow there to be, while you hold the space for yourself of where you can trust. So again, it's not having great expectations that you're going to be able to absolutely see this little being. She's going to look as if real, as if like a hologram or something. That's generally not what happens. People expect that they'll be able to see things clearly, or they'll be able to recognize themselves, or that there'll be information that'll come through in our normal 5 senses. But actually the information comes through in all sorts of ways. Sometimes you'll get, people say, well, this phrase has just appeared in my mind. I can hear my auntie saying this, or, oh, I remember this particular smell. So there's lots of senses that come into it. But because we imagine it's going to be a clear image, because we're very visually oriented these days. So yeah, I think an expectation is that it would be visual, and it isn't always visual at all.
And would you say that, so what would be your advice for people who are, is it like a form of meditation? Will their eyes be closed? What do they need to be aware of to create the right space environment for that?
Key is you can do it with your eyes closed. That often helps you to receive more, because visually we're being bombarded by what we see with our eyes open anyway. So it is good to close your eyes, but some people don't want to close their eyes. The most important thing is that you can feel a sense of safety.
So
to feel safe. And so when I'm working with clients, generally I work with people who I've met, but when it's a new client that I've never met before, the first session is totally about me tuning into how safe we can create the situation for them, because it's not about me creating safety. It's about you creating it, and I assist and support you in that creation of a sense of safety. Because if there isn't that sense of safety, then we are in one of our programs, we're in one of our beings and one of our parts of our personality.
And in lockdown, that might be being a bit creative. I did a workshop recently, and one of the ladies on there was in her car, because that was the only quiet place she could go and not be interrupted. I was on a podcast recently. We were talking about the lockdown situation, and my attitude is that maybe you need to lock yourself in the bathroom if that's the only place, and everyone can just wee in the garden. It's okay. You must be able to create a space for a short period of time for yourself, because you're going to be in major trouble if you don't do that. So we're giving everyone who's listening permission to do whatever they need to do within reason to give themselves give themselves a space, a calm space on Friday, tomorrow, so they can really enjoy not just the show but the healing at the end. And is there anything else you'd like to describe about the healing, or any other information you want to share on this before we say goodbye until tomorrow?
Well, what I'd like to share with everybody is that this is the healing journey. To me now is a really fun experience, but not fun in a happy clappy way. It's fun in the fact that it's juicy. It's there's so much beauty in what we do. There's beauty in the fear, there's beauty in the hatred, there's beauty in the love, there's beauty in the compassion. So every aspect of what we do is full of juice and beauty. In yoga, we call it rasa. Rasa is the juice of life. It's the beauty of life. Everything has its rasa, everything. And so appreciating that, firstly, we are all doing our very, very best in every moment. And secondly, that even when it's rubbish, it's full of rasa. full of this juicy beauty. And because of the juice and the beauty, we experience love. And that is the ultimate.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to finish. Thank you so much. And I'm so looking forward to the session tomorrow.
Yes.
Bye for now, Marion. Oh, just before we go, how can people find out more about you?
So the Find Your Why Foundation is the business that I am focusing most of my energies on at the moment. The Find Your Why Foundation is a great community, and we help people to find out not only your why, your purpose, the reason why you're here, but why are you where you are right now in your life.
Brilliant. I'll make sure I'll add a link to the video in the podcast. Bye for now, Marion. Bye.